I would love to hear from some of what we've been calling the oldies, um, just to help those who have come into inner dance new and fresh, a sense of where will this energy take you? Where does this go? And maybe there cannot be a better time than to be in the middle of this really strong storm to be thinking about this. Like, where does the storm go? Where does all of this chaos bring us? This wind is carrying a lot. It's not just here in the Philippines. The buildup that happens in the oceans normally in the side makes first landfall in the Philippines. So whenever these storms come, they carry a lot of messages, and we're always receiving them. The storm just passed by my mom's farm, actually. She just sent me pictures of what it had done to her place. So this holds a lot of power, a lot of information. So hope that we can convey some of this. I didn't really prepare for this particular gathering because it's a community space and it's always best to hear from everyone. Um, Maybe I can pick up on some general themes and also bring about a kind of welcoming, setting the space um, for all of us in the long term. In general, the thought that passes through me right now is like, what does it take to organize the energy? The energy is infinite. The energy is long lasting. It's been here beyond our imaginations can imagine. And this is almost what we are hoping to do, because were you to unleash all of that power from within, it will show itself through your body, through your emotions, your mind. The people around you will start to synchronize depending on what you can hold. And the question is always like, how much can you hold? And a lot of you have been holding a lot. So one of my roles here is to demonstrate that it is in fact possible to hold that much. I am at the very least consistent, so no matter what happens, whether things go up or down, it's very important that we anchor ourselves in what seems like the eye of the storm. And the storms will come. The storms are coming. The storms are here. So what does it mean to stabilize oneself, and then to stabilize your community so that there is some kind of still point, some kind of heart space that interests us in the intense movement, in the musical journey, in the soundscapes. There's a quietness, there's a stillness, so that even if it gets really, really wild, something is slowing down, sometimes to the point where it seems to be stopping. So you want to hold that, and I trust that you already do have that inside you, and sometimes that just needs affirmation. I want to introduce you to the studio work that we are coordinating here, because that is part of the stabilization process. There are many who are realizing there's some exciting possibilities on creating the conditions that will hold the space. And sometimes that would have to do with the vibration, with the sounds, the music, the rhythms, the melodies, the harmonies, the tempos, the tonalities, the textures of what you hold. And sometimes that has to do with information, that has to do with what's passing through, which can be quite a lot. It's a huge mapping. So you want to take things in steps. You want to take things in stride. And if you do your work well, there will be an evolution, so that after the opening, there will be the wanting to go deeper. This will be inside you, and this will be in others. If you do your work with a lot of heart and a lot of trust and a lot of energy, it's just natural that people will have questions. And after holding the general heart opening, you yourself will be interested in those questions, both for them and for you. So then to situate yourself in a way that you can hold not just the energy, but also the information. Emotions are the space in between. Normally, when we experience emotions, energies in motion, it's because there's something much bigger that is wanting to be seen, that is passing through. And sometimes when we feel the emotion of feeling overwhelmed, a lot of emotions is actually just the feeling of feeling overwhelmed, so much is happening at the same time. It could be the emotion of anxiety or fear, or even excitement or anger or surrender. It's because there's just so much more passing through, either being released or being taken in. So somewhere between energy and information, emotions will provide the bridge work. So you want to safely be able to manage your way through those feeling moments. Information will help you to stabilize. Vibration will help you to hold the space that stabilizes, in a way. It's just holding vibration and holding information together. So I think that would be a big element of interest when we open up the long-term study space. And for a lot of you who are starting the inner dance journey only now, if you're passing through this this gateway, a lot of you might find yourself in a lifelong learning process within a community that's conducting similar work or different work as you are. So to organize a physical space, to organize a mental space, and then to organize a virtual space now needs to be part of you, this organizational part of the inner dance. The inner dance can be really good at messing things up so that we can get the message within the mess. Or inner dance is actually a really good way to start organizing things. Sometimes you need to mess things up in order to achieve a higher order. The greater the chaos, sometimes the greater the order becomes, because now you have more access to more connections that you may not have seen before. So it's really important that you organize your room, and your room can be your body. Definitely your room can be your mind, but definitely your room can be your your bedroom, your office space, your library, your house. Italy's room is like her garden. Um, organizing your room after you find a new sense of center, a new anchor, a new still point, a new heart, which is more of a middle space, right? Um, so we need to be specific about where we're converging usually, and because this is an inner dance space, then the topics are quite consistent based upon those who are journeying through this. It's not a general spiritual thing, meaning a lot of you are doing many, many interesting things, and you can bring those up in the appropriate rooms or spaces that are studying those things within an inner dance long-term study process. Then you will have people who are interested in what the vibration does. How do you hold the vibration? There are people who are interested in the tradition in inner dance has been using music that holds the vibration. So as you develop your techniques and then add to your toolkit, organizing that actually requires transforming your brain just as much, not just blowing up your brain, but to go into a developmental multi-stage approach. It's been long studied that the brains of musicians do not look the same as the brains of non-musicians. The corpus callosum conjoining the left and right hemisphere of the brain is much thicker. So when you conduct this work, and because we're using sound, you're making thicker the gap between the left and the right brain. So when you learn not just how to listen to the music, but actually to produce, to use music, to give it to others, you're altering other people's brains, and you're also altering your brain. So this is not something you want to hurry, because there are levels of complexity in this alone. And because we're not here just to study the use of music, our goal, partly in the long-term study process, is to look at what are the connections between what we know now about the neurosciences and linguistics, language being what structures consciousness. What do we know about historicity and culture and time and space? And then what does that have to say with the tools that we would adapt to? So we're going to be opening up quite a wide range of possibility month after month. The techniques and the tools are changing like all the time. So you will never really feel a completion here. You will not be given a level of satiation where at one point you say, okay, I'm done, I'm finished. That feeling can always be there on a certain level, but in terms of growth, there is a structuralism here. There is a coming back to diversification of the brain and of the mind that can harness light and sound, electricity and magnetism, so that it happens within an alignment. You know, it's like that which you are passionate about, that which you believe in, that which you want to give to others, even that which you want to become your livelihood or your sustainability option, it becomes one. So it becomes important to invest your time, your space, your mind, your body, your room, some of your resources into something you know is going to help. So, you know, like I found something really interesting just yesterday. no, 2 days ago, updated my I updated my operating system on my laptop. And then when you do that, and then when you update the operating system on your phone, it then tells you that it's actually possible to use your phone as the web camera. It's really trippy. So what that helps me to do right now is I can walk around the room and maybe show you what my mind or my brain looks like at any given time. Um, I really resonate with the word and concept the studio, and I really desire that everyone has their own studio. And this is something I want people to take slowly. Um, within the inner intensive, within the last years, we've been experiencing huge shifts in terms of how to orient energy. There have been so many deep processes in the inner dance in the first years where the energy is delivered live, meaning the facilitator is in the room, there's a big group gathered, and there is going to be an awakening, a collective awakening, like a group explosion. And that required certain tools, that required certain ways, techniques, certain modalities. And then when COVID-19 happened, we shifted into different modes. We couldn't hold the room in presence. We had to hold it in absence. And what we found out was that the tools, the modalities, the methodologies that came through there were like hugely powerful. They were amazing. They could hold certain things that weren't possible to hold in presence. It had the power to hold more. And then coming to Europe this year, even if it was just 3.5 months, shifting from the online space to the live space, it felt like there was a meeting point between these two spaces, and I would just call them time, holding the energy in time, or holding the energy in space. So that a lot of people who came into inner intensive in the last 2 rounds, maybe last 3 rounds since last year, we were looking more at inner dance within space. So we would go into the digital audio workstation like Logic Pro, GarageBand, and others, and we would like produce the vibration in space. And what was funny was during the last inner intensive, when we were in Europe, we were actually shifting from space into time because we were holding bodies in presence. So as the COVID-19 restrictions were being lifted and people were allowed to be together physically again, not just it wasn't just us then. What I'm saying is people were starting to do it again globally. Something was transforming, something was conjoining in a way. So I come back here to Palawan, into typhoon territory again, having have labored hugely with Italy and our whole team here to construct a stable studio space that can withstand these incredible, powerful forces of nature. Time and space seems to come together now in a different way. Presence and absence needs to hold each other. Absence really just speaks more about being able to honor even those who are not there in the space, because even if there is just, a few presences in any room or in any moment, there is in fact the tracing of all the other presences. There's like the absent presence that is wanting to be seen and wanting to be heard. That is sometimes what is more that is wanting to come through. So we are going to be able to hold vibration differently more and more. And one of the things that we can expect is that music itself is actually changing right in front of us. Um, I can't count how many musicians, DJs, music producers have been meeting lately who are taking notice of, okay, what is exactly happening there? They're really good at what they do, but there's this new thing happening, like a new way of experiencing sound that isn't always just about producing the sound. It's how do you receive the sound? How do you actually hear this incredibly ancestral vibration that is audible to the whole brain, the whole body, the whole nervous system, the whole being, the whole range of all the oscillations, the slowest and the fastest. And that's going to push the boundaries of our emotions, our cognitions, our spiritual capacities to the brink, hopefully into the new. So I speak to some of you as, let's say, journeyers, pilgrims, people who are undergoing the healing process, and that should be always all of us in a way. I also speak to you as someone who is interested in sharing, in gifting, in bringing this to others. And then I also share this to a lot of you who will be teachers, who will make teachers out of others, teachers who won't look for more students, but teachers who will see all the others are also teachers. And then this will scale, this can spread in a very balanced and generous way that's holding an equilibrium, a lot of equality, something very, very non-hierarchical. Like I used to work with a doctor. I'm still working with him now. He's coming here next month. His name is Dr. Rami, and he would often tell me, like the real medicine is not these pharmaceutical chemicals. It's actually information. When you educate the patients, they themselves become their own doctors. So that's what it means to make teachers out of all others. Um, so that, yeah, like a demystification will take place. I think what I'm saying here is we would see a lot of you conducting not just sessions but trainings. It's already happening. So Maya becomes a possible support system. We don't need to centralize that this is the headquarters of anything. We really are just organized or organizing in a way that could be of help, so that if you feel that you need some level of the information that may not be accessible because it takes a tremendous amount of time to conduct the research, to study all the things that are undergoing the transformations, to at least have access to like a space like Maya, and then a global community that's all studying with each other. It allows you not have to wait for too long before you feel like you're ready. I say that because there is some kind of urgency here. Already this thing has started a while ago, and there's a huge buildup. And there's a huge buildup because there's a demand, there's a need. People need this. People need this. We've needed this a long time ago. This process of release, this process of unconditional love, this process of service, this process of healing the earth. And so at the same time that we really do need to slow down, this is also the moment we need to speed up. So do it whenever. When you feel this is the time to set that organizational element in your life, then stabilize. Create a container for the process. And then inside that container, begin to put things inside there. That container is an ontology, it's an entity, it's a being. And it's really down to values. If you know that there's something coming into the world that is important, it's valuable, creating a container allows that thing to be a being unto itself. It becomes something to put time into more and more. And in my life, in my experience, this is not conceptual. I've seen many people who have quit their jobs, who have left their current modes of thinking, behaving, speaking, and they've shifted entire lives to this work. Meaning it came as a shock to me, but then I kind of got used to it, that there are a lot of people, when you ask them, what do you do? Like, this is what they do. This is literally what they do. It's become that valuable. So a lot of interest, a lot of passion, a lot of resources are being put into this energy, and you're still coming into this at a point where it's not really institutionalized. I don't even know if that's possible. We're coming into this where we're all co-founding this. This is just as much yours as mine or those who seem to hold more of this. And a lot of people do come to these gatherings, these trainings, just to ask for, let's say, legitimacy, permission, access, and then our job is to say, no, it's yours. Of course, it's always been yours. So we're co-founding this, and that should empower you. Like us from here, we don't come from ego, we don't come from power. We come from, okay, this is everywhere. This is everything, this is everyone. So then what would be the starting points? So let me try the thing with the phone, see if it works. I gave it a short test earlier. It worked once. Okay, so now my camera is my webcam. That means I can walk around the studio. Oh, now you can't? Oh, wait. No? Okay, so Italy said my mic went off. So this is my studio. All of these things do different things. Don't need these things per se. They can be found in your phone if you just had the time to make the space for them. Not everything is digital. There's a lot of interesting things here that's very ancestral. Palawan especially is a bamboo forest ground. So there are many interesting ways to hold a vibration here that's indigenous to the land. Oh yeah, sorry. Okay. This is the most important part of my studio or my mind. Like when I hold the innerintensive, I spend more time usually opening these folders in my mind that help to integrate or help to make whole what seems to be like a lot of parts. So I may not share a lot of this complexity live, but when I go to these, a lot of it is basically linked to those. Okay, like I rarely make shifts in the way I hold the sound without being guided by why am I doing it? What is it in the technology or the, you know, so when I look at this, I'm basically looking at my brain. And then at the same time, I'm also looking at like the global brain. And I just wanted to word that out to situate you. Okay, I'm gonna sit back down. Go back to the other camera. Just to situate you on, like for me anyway, what does it take to hold something long term? Like, were you to sustain yourself in this beyond, let's say, 10 years or 20 years, one of the questions I ask is, what would the new healing center look like? What would the new retreat space look like? What would the new detox center look like? What would be the new yoga space look like? And then what would the new hospital and the new school look like? So I think if you put all of those together, and this is what we've been doing in Maya, if you had all of the space and all of the time, and that's what the energy would give you, you would in time meet a lot of people who would ask very deep questions, and they will not be satisfied with overly simplistic answers that cancel out what would be relevant, because inside the energy is like everything. So I do this partly to support others. I do this partly because I am always in this journey of experiencing and understanding. I wouldn't have found my inner dance without my philosophy, which is Philo and Sophie, my love for wisdom. That's what brought me here. And I simply experienced what I was beginning to understand. And now human beings are coming into this understanding, and that is why we're beginning to experience space. So how to organize things? Like I'm gonna go into the, wait, let me see if it's up. Let me go into my share screen. Those who have been in the calls this week would know where we're kind of going with things. Wait, the camera is kind of off. I should be in the, there, yeah, there you go. I should be somewhere there. We're going to be working with different ways of outlining like a lot of these concepts, a lot of these this could just keep going on and on. It took me actually like a long time to acclimatize my brain to get used to outlining, because when you outline, you would need to limit the infinite. That is what it means to make a definition. To make finite is to make definite. To organize your mind. And what I love about these is these can be shared. So these same outlines can become part of materials other people could use later on. And over time, these would reach into levels of complexity, so that if the mind goes somewhere, it would go into possible hyperlinks where as soon as it requires a certain feedback as to, let's say, a manifestation of pain or pleasure, suffering, or opportunity comes, we don't need to identify always with the emotion that is not allowing us to see something properly. We deserve to know. There is an ecstasy that comes with knowing, that isn't just always, combating with the ecstasy of not having to know nothing. We, as a species, have experienced what it is like to be subject to those who know more. And those who know more usually have the more power. Those who know less are usually the ones who are dependent on those who know more. Those who know more have more resources, more, more power. So this will have relevance not just in places like Europe, where people have access to information. This could relate to many parts of the world that has not had access to knowing, and are still going through very basic developmental stages of critical thinking, asking the right questions, learning how systems work, learning how to come into objectivity so that problem solving can happen rather than problem avoiding. So I think this is just one of the interesting avenues that we can all learn together. Yeah, so I'm coming into a lot of this with excitement. I don't want to limit anything. I just want to. I'm interested in how energy itself is going to organize the planet. When you come to a place like Maya, historically we've been involved. We started the raw food movement here. We were one of the global founders of the EcoBrick network, which is one of the most powerful way of cleaning up the garbage. We constructed the first mud houses here, and we started the water birth scenario. That possibility came from here. Inner dance is just one of the things we've done. We helped to hold the global eco-village network within Asia, and so on and so forth, from disasters to education to medicine. We've worked with governments, with mayors, with hospitals, with school principals, with the Department of Education. So we're not just interested in the spiritual workshop. Like, we're interested in how do you construct a new world? How do you make up a new earth? ID, inner dance, interior design. How do you make up a new room? If a room could be a mind, a consciousness, a person, or a planet. So what's interesting about me is every time something cataclysmic, like disastrous, happens in the Philippines historically, I was attracted. I was there. We would go there, and then we would conduct different kinds of work, not just healing, but actual rebuilding work. How do you rebuild things in a way that does not add to the problems, but could heal? Sometimes when we rebuild, we actually make things worse, because the technologies we're using are in fact going to add to the very problems that contributed to the climate change that created the typhoon. It's so then there would be this thought of how do you reconstruct? And sometimes you would be attracted to go to those places in the world where transformation could happen, and sometimes those are not the happiest, brightest of places. And that is why we invited Rosa to join us today, because one of the projects I want to bring up in the long-term study process is she's setting herself up to bring inner dance to the prison systems. She's going to be introducing that, and she's not really facilitated inner dance. She's been part of the space for quite a while historically, but on her own, this is something she hasn't really done. And she would love maybe to get some ideas from this group in the long term, so that this opening would be representational. If we could do it in one prison, we could do it in many prisons. And so 3 days ago, we welcomed like Anda and Carol. I didn't know where she was from. Thought she's coming from France. They're Romanian and they're coming from Germany, and they're both doctors. And that just, enlivens me. Okay, there are these two doctors who are asking all these questions about like what is all this? What is happening, and how can we construct a new medical system? They're dreaming about founding a similar place in the Black Forest in Germany, and there are strong movements of inner dance in Germany. So all of these, I think, are interesting because we're about to make practical what is so up there, so cosmic. How do you bring that to Earth? So I think those projects are important, that we are able to network a lot of these people who have very, very important questions. How do we hold specific space? So in the long-term channel, I think what could be interesting is there could be separate moments where we could talk about just, let's say, the role of music and how production techniques and building studios could work. Then there could be separate discussions regarding the pragmatics of the different colors. So let's say medicine or disease might be in the red. I don't actually know where the prison system would end up. But just to create separate contained spaces for each of these important thoughts, these different experimentations, that would allow us not to keep looping. A tendency that does happen a lot when we go into space, we get spacey, and we lose some ability to contextualize certain situations. We lose the ability to hold certain particular parts because we're looking so much at the whole, so that we go around saying, oh, everything's energy anyway. These things will just work themselves out. It's amazing. But when you do work with the world, when you do work with, let's say, the people managing prisons, and I do love being in this country because we're allowed to do these. I'm pretty sure if Rosa was in Germany and she came up with this brilliant idea, I'm pretty sure it would not be anywhere as easy. So there are these places in the world that still have contact with the fluid nature of our being, and it could definitely start happening in these places. So I'm happy to also bring that up. So I'm going to be turning over the space to the group. I would be, Italy could hold the question, maybe. And maybe those who are part of the long-term group first could share, which would maybe assist those who are new to this community. Like, where does this go? If I spend a lot of time in this, what would happen to my brain? What would happen to my body? What would happen to my mind? Would I go crazy? Would I go mad? Would I... Maite sent this interesting question to me in Italy, like what does inner dance do? Does it actually help you to hold more information? Does it help you to remember better? Does it help you to organize things more? I want to point out that the answer is yes. And I think to be able to demonstrate that right now, to make that visible, is so incredibly important. So thank you, Maite, for asking that question. So handing this over to Italy, and I'm glad the storm isn't so strong anymore. I'll pass my mute button. Thank you for listening.
Hi. Okay. Do you guys want to have a pee break, toilet break, tea cup picking up to break the sitting moment for some of us? Maybe we take 2 minutes break and then we go kind of to the next part of the call. Okay, 2 minutes, 3, and then we come back to the screen.
It's because she needs to pee herself.
Okay. Run back to the space. I'm thinking, are you Rosa online there?
I'm here.
Yay. Okay.
Hi, Lituli.
I could. It's a long time no see. Now we see. It's nice to have you here.
Same here.
Okay. Is everyone back from the official break time? Probably, yeah. Okay. So yeah, we could go into sharing, dialogue, insights, any question that comes up from the flow that we will go into. We'd invite like Pai said, like the ones who started the long-term study group just to also bring us self in with the inner intensive people and to reflect something, because it's always really, it's good to hear because we have those questions and many of us are new also to the process. So even the ones who's been with it for 6 months or 2 months or 10 years or 5 years could kind of take the lead from the sharing space first, but then of course everyone is like bring your questions or insights or things kind of with the aspect that now we could harvest from the people who's been with the process, either the online process or their own inner dance or long time in the community. So we start with Rosa. It would be nice to hear maybe your inner dance background also. How did you end up with it, and how did you also end up with your current flow of things? You can
So
share freely. Thank you.
thank you so much, Lituli, for that introduction. Thank you, Pai, for this space. I started inner dance roughly around 2015. Yeah, in Cebu. I attended energy school there. And after that, I moved to, I think a year after that, I moved to my, in Palawan, specifically in Bahay Kalipay. And I helped out for at least 6 months to kind of explore, because I was also going through my own healing journey during that time. And after that, after 6 months in Palawan, I went back to Manila. Yeah, that was really, I went through a deep healing journey. I got healed. And then I started exploring other platforms for my own self-development. And I found community development very rewarding financially, and also with my well-being, because I get to help people and get financially rewarded as well. And maybe I'd like to give you a backstory. 6 months before I put up my tech startup, I was dreaming about one of the inner dance member in Cebu, in Palawan, Isa. He has a son, and I've been dreaming about his son, and walking, and it not just one dream, but really consecutive dreams, and I don't know why, because I haven't seen Laya in person. Um, and I and then afterwards he would always lead me, that dream mode would always lead me to uh to a um to a group of men, old men circle. And then, I mean, after that, after a few months, I got in contact with some uh prison officers, I would say, in here in Manila, and they're trying to tap me for some community development, um, s- yeah, project. And then that's when I'm also into NFT or digital arts. So what I did was I first came up with maybe there's something with, because I'm also into arts, so maybe there's something in between these things. And then that's when I started first teaching art inside the prison facility, or correction facility. And then I but what are we gonna do with the art that we're kind of producing, right? So I incorporated digital arts, NFTs, and we're minting it, because we can't really sell them. And it's really very interesting to kind of so that was the first stage of the tech startup that I built. And then how did I came up? So I had to do some business registration and all, and I had to come up with a name. And then I dreamt again of Isa's son, who is Laya. Hey, maybe that's Laya means freedom in English. And yeah, so I felt that, yeah, maybe I was that was really the meaning of that dream space that I had. So I put up a business named Laya Digital Arts, digital curators. That's the name. And now we're on their second stage, where how do, because the we're in the they're in the facility with, and it's really overpopulated. The challenge is really creativeness, um pulling out, because they already have skills, but the creative, how do we, the creativity, and that's my challenge. And now, starting November, I've been talking to Pai about this, and Pai is very supportive, and we will be inculcating um inner dance in one of our sessions. That's like two sessions a month that we're gonna do starting November, just to jumpstart and explore possibilities, ask questions, and then expand their creativity. How, what extent will the music bring creativity to them with the limited physical space that they have? So that's basically it. And I was really trying to gather or call other facilitators that I knew, but it's not really, because I'm not a facilitator. I would just actively join most of the sessions, but I don't facilitate. And that's one of the challenges I'm having right now. But and and then Pai told me that, yeah, maybe it's really you who needs to really facilitate. So I'd love to hear from you, from everyone who has facilitated, and like because they are coming from different backgrounds, and they've had, and they're really into rehabilitation. Some of them have been Two of them have been released, and I'm still supporting them with their art. But the question here is, what would it take for me to bring that space to them and provide them with allowance on, um to have more space to really expand their creativeness. So yeah, so any feedback or insights would definitely, I'm more than grateful for that.
Can I ask Rosa a few, like how many prisoners there is in the group, and what type of what type of prison section is it? Like how I would say how rough, because like, or what types of historicities or stories they have, who you work with there in the prison?
It's a lot of people would my I of course I've gone through their evaluation, but this is the first time that's being asked, because I'm outside, and I'm really, how do I say it, shy, because I'm really working with high profile criminals, or rather high profile cases, rather. For I have I have art students who are like, have cases of 70% of them have drug cases, peddling drug cases. So it's really more of the poverty stricken, selling drugs and all, easy fast money. That's their mindset. But 30% of them has high profile cases, gun for hire, triple for quadruple murder cases, things like that. So yeah, so, and I have to, it's very surprising. Those that have really high profile cases are the ones that are very creative when it comes to the art, how they express it. And yeah, so that's how they're between 20 years old to 59 years old. Yeah.
That's I'm mindful the thing. Yeah.
Just a quick thought as to the long conversation on this. Something that could happen within the long term channeling we're currently in discussion as to how to build ways to isolate or like honor specific conversations within their own containers. So there could be a cross sectioning, for example, between the people in the intensive and the long term. So when there are particular projects like these, to learn from what Rosa is doing, as well as to contribute. Okay, all right. So I give up.
I think we dropped by the connection.
Uh, yeah, it was the Wi-Fi. Is it better? No. Okay. So yeah, I'm done. I'm done. Yeah, just go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Oh, now you're back. The
Oh.
video is moving.
Okay. So yeah, just saying the
Okay.
conversation won't necessarily be now, but that we can open up particular channels to learn from you, Rosa, and to also have people who might have ideas to bring some assistance. There are people within the community who are creating some really amazing soundscapes, like vibratory journey elements. Rosa feels for one that she can't hold like hour-long sessions. Like at the most, it's going to be 30 minutes. So just within those parameters. I do realize though that some of this might need to be culturally bound, but it still might be interesting to sense there might be some universal elements that could bring translation to this project. So when we do open up the space for questions, we'll do that more organically, like in the long term. So for those who are interested in Rosa's project, she's also looking for small help to sustain the work. You can, we can, yeah, help you to connect with her as well. So yeah.
I'd like to be honest with everyone that there's really a lot of hesitancy at first, because I've seen how intense the spaces can be, and with their high profile cases, and then backgrounds as well. I there's fear inside me that what would I do? How do I hold space if there's something that opened, something like that? So I invited a few friends who is willing to help. She's a Reiki practitioner. But yeah, anyone who is in that healing space, I was really kind of inviting them just to help me hold space on for my students. And yeah, the art itself, it's okay, but other aspect, when it comes to more like spirit, on that art therapy that I'm trying to bringing inner dance, that's more of there's really fear inside, not really a lot, but there is, that I'm being confronted right now.
Can I say something? Hello. We can have a chat because I was in this project for Mexican prison with a couple of friends. We are in hold at the moment because, like you say, it is really difficult, especially when we wanna are in contact with these people with this very deep journey, if we want to call that, especially because they see us like different. So it's really hard approach, but we can have a talk if you want.
Definitely. Let's get in touch. Thank you. I'll leave my number, my email in the chat. Maybe we can.
Hello,
Let's-
Rosa. Hello, everyone.
Yes.
Well, I just want to share shortly some things that came out through your very vivid and also interesting, I don't know, paradigm. I feel that the possibility for inner dance coming to prisons is the possibility to give to these minds and body and souls the experience of freedom that they are not having for the consequence that they are getting in one part, and this possibility of free them into their inner and through their bodies and through the energy also should to have some kind of paradoxical encounters. Yes, maybe you are also on some level feeling this. Yes. Also, what I can say from my experience from offering sound, especially with my instrument, and well, is difficult apparently with the corporation as you are experiencing, but I'm sure that if you can arrive to a place where the hesitance and the doubts or the trigger, that the challenging that is in front, the opportunity becomes in your system, in your nervous system, more calm, more soft, and you will see the easiness, how this started to, you started to melt into the bureaucratical spaces and the heart of the people that they are inside. I just feel to share this. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank
And
you
I'm
so
interested
much.
maybe in the future to see if online something can be contributed at some point where it's open the space. Thank you.
I want to share maybe some just feelings because I met Rosa maybe a year ago. We did some inner dance immersion in my sister and mom's farm, and we met there. I think it was last year. And when me and Pai were talking about this project and who could from Manila facilitate inner dance in the prison, and then first thing in my mind is like it needs a certain character actually that is like, how would I say in English, you have account, I don't know, like a streetwise, it needs a certain energy probably to be there. So someone who is not there or already called to it, and we were thinking about these different facilitators, like who would be there. And then when I was actually thinking about you and how I heard your own healing story, which is pretty incredible. It's like a warriorship, and you look young, but you are actually a mother, and you have like, I don't remember exactly, but I think you're older than I am, but you have a long like life history like behind you, and you are already there. You're actually already there with them. So now I'm kind of like thinking like to bring inner dance into the space when you're actually, it's already your calling and you're already there, might not be that different from the art therapy things you're already doing. And because you are, yeah, there's something in it. And I was like, you're exact also, like now when Pai shared that he's been talking with you, like you should be the one who does it. It actually doesn't make sense anyone else to come and hold it, because you are already holding it. And then that inner dance space doesn't, the fear for me would be also if I would come from outside to a facility like that, you know, what if it's dangerous to be there, even for myself as facilitator? What if things come up or somebody gets violent, because you're already holding something there, and that the inner dance would come from that space that you have already there, kind of. So I actually feel it can be very natural, and that flow that you would do anyways there with them. So the intensity or the idea that the session, yeah, that is a really big trust process. But I think you've jumped already to that trust process because you're already holding space in the prison and you're already working with all those people, and it doesn't come from this I'm coming here to save you and heal you. You're actually creating with them together and seeing them as equal in that way. So that holds so much already. Already doing there. So thank you for being there, and amazing to follow. And
thank you so much, Pai and Litudi, for the support that you've been giving me. At first I was really hesitant, but past few weeks I'm now trying to be in that space, because I've already built the trust within them, like the mentor-mentee relationship that I had with them, which is really good. We're very tight, and even the officers inside, they're very there's a trust within us that have a bond that that we have already formed, not in personal level, but that's something that we could definitely build, and expand from there. And I'm not really, Pai and I were discussing, maybe it's not really about healing that we're going to talk, that's really out of the context, but more of really just opening them with questions, and start from there to really and then use words that are more relatable to them, rather than using those third eye or a lot of spiritual stuff discussion. So definitely I'll veer away from those stuff and make it as like use a language that can be that they can understand at their level. Thank you, Maite. Thank you, Saule, for and thank you everyone, for Ilaria for helping. I really appreciate it, Leslie. Definitely I'll get in touch with you. Please allow me to share some of the artworks that they've done. Very intense, but we were discussing, because before the start of the class, we would always have feedback and feedback. And if it's okay, I'll share one of the artworks. Can I share screen?
I will check how to do that.
I could just share it here.
Yeah, you can do it.
Okay, thank you. So this is one of the art. We were discussing about their nightmares, and one of the they painted this. So there, we've already shifted from paper and pencil, and now they're using canvas to really share. There's another one I think I could share. So yeah, so that's some of the intense artwork that they've done, and really good details. There's one here. This is one of my favorites here. These were all painted. They've started this after we were discussing about nightmares. So yeah, and we're minting for sustainability aspect. We're going to mint it and sell it in the NFT space, or digital space.
Can I share something?
Yes, please, Maite.
Rosa, it's me. Floor.
Oh, Floor. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah. Well done, Rosa. And as you know, I really would have loved to be there physically, but it was a short time in the Philippines. There's one thing that really struck my heart, is the thought of how creative must their minds be to explore crime. I've always thought that any crime is a very creative act. Like you need to be how wild can you go beyond the normal thinking of the normal walking, talking people, and to be able to actually inflict death or harm towards somebody. So I can imagine how interesting their art would be. And I would like to share this not just to you but to everyone, because some of you know that my original work before Inner Dance is called is Creative Alchemy, where I share transformative spaces through the art. So when I got into the inner dance practice, then it became even much deeper, and I couldn't leave that work because that is where I started having the remembrance of all this work. One thing that I was able to share to many people is, which you can also do, Rosa, and maybe others can do as well, is actually using the inner dance music in the creative process. So they're not necessarily lying down. So perhaps for a transition, for you to have more confidence, to take them into the inner dance journey, is because they have the trust, as you and Italy said, like the first thing that we require in an inner dance space and the relationship that we need is the trust. When there's trust, you can go further than just talking, because their space is open. Now, because there is a relationship with them being open in their mind with the art, perhaps a transition process can be like how I usually do it in my spaces, having the inner dance music in the art process. And you will see how incredible it is that they actually can go through the inner dance work. When one of the things that you can practice and keep training yourself with is making them train themselves to see and know themselves through their art. Because for many years of doing, I have seen how people can transform, evolve, remember through seeing their journey, their inner library, their transformations, their gifts, through their way of reading and understanding what their colors are meaning, what the lines are meaning, what the memories, the remembrance are being put on the art. And this is you and them being able to create that reverence to the power of the art. That could be that great transition period for you to have that confidence, and for them to have that confidence in actually lying down into an inner dance journey. That's just one suggestion. And one more sharing I would like to have is to give is, as an artist, when I was invited to give a talk in a gallery one time, and I had to review my paintings for like 8 years. What I understood was my paintings were actually speaking about my process. So say my earlier paintings were about loss and grief and drama and la la la. Even the titles that I would put, I didn't realize that I was actually sharing my story and history and evolution through my art. And then slowly I could see that there were meditative works, and then now it's a more like psychedelic, like inner dancing works that I'm putting in. And now I'm doing all sorts of, light language, and the painting itself becomes inner dance for other people. So it can be a very, very powerful tool for them as human beings, and for you as a facilitator to to give that reverence and trust to the power of their art. Yeah, and as that transitionatory period, to be able to really infuse inner dance in the space as an actual lying down process. Yeah, I hope that helps.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mama Flor.
Thank you. Beautiful insights. Yeah, we can go on and sharing some check-ins where if we start with the long-term members who are now starting to tap into your long journey, and would be beautiful to hear some of your insights or retrospectives in a way to this point, like, yeah, how has it affected, and what has there been some changes or insights in your inner dance journey? Anything you feel relevant right now? You want to share on that? You're here. Okay, anyone who wants to start can unmute themselves. Anda can start. She's next to me here.
So my inner dance journey, it was, I don't know where to start, because it was very, very different experiences, a lot of understanding, a lot of changing, I think, and I could correlate more, make a lot of connections, and understanding better the process, not only the spiritual part, but also integrating in my practice in the need of what the people are need to experience, need to change, the applicability of. It was very, very interesting for me to see it from a medical point of view and a spiritual point of view, and I was fascinating the way Pai was seeing and putting together all these things from philosophical, medical, and spiritual point of view. It really was a journey, and yeah. I had my own experiences, and I'm finding a way to apply it now, to give it forward. Yeah, I think that's how I can get the things
You want
together.
to share your ideas about, as a doctor and inner dance, how you're seeing integrating, or some ideas for future?
So we'll try to make a concept about bringing the inner dance to the medical field. Yeah, that's a difficult part. That was what we are talking about all this time, because we are looking for a way to bring it to the medicine. It is a little difficult to combine them, because it's not that accepted, this alternative part, but we are figuring out a way to bring it. In the moment, I think it's hard to digest this part from the medical point of view, and for the colleagues to accept it and to apply it. But I think it will come a point when you're be able to do it easily. Just in this time, in this moment, we are trying to find out a way to make it more accessible to the medical world, but we still haven't a clear path to that. We're finding a way in that direction, just with a lot of work and concentration, and trying to bring it from the concept to this, to apply it in the world we are living in. And it's not that easy, but yeah, just like
Yeah, anyone can just continue any sharings you want to go, just unmute yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Noha. So I would actually like to answer back and actually feel into Pai's question, like how inner dance changed things, or how like this journey had been and how it's still developing. And I started, the first time I've received inner dance ever was 7.5 years from Floor, actually, in Dubai, where I'm now living. So I have been living in Egypt, and I have been representing Egypt energetically in my body, as well sometimes in the field. However, I like just now reflecting on where this all started. I remember the first day, or like the first year when I was doing, or when I was being in that practice. And I remember I was completely disconnected from my body, completely. Like I didn't feel anything beyond here, probably. And my emotional body was completely kind of in shutdown. And I was kind of okay, or I thought I was okay, and I didn't know there was more to life than that. And although like how I feel like inner dance have been my thing since I was a kid, and the more I understand what that resonance is, what this vibration is, I actually get to see like how we kind of like been inner dancing. The earth had been inner dancing from the day it was created. So for me, it's very hard to dissect my personal from like this journey. But I feel like there's no place that I would go, there's no practice that I would go through, or even a place that I hold, even if it's not in the same container of the inner dance, that doesn't turn into an inner dance. And there's nothing that I do out of inner dance that doesn't come in. So for me, it had been a very interesting way to see how the spirals are connecting together. But I feel like for me, it had been the most genuine, authentic, and real. And for me, it's the kind of like the shortcut to the truth, whatever it is. And I realized as I go through the years that that there's something very beautiful when you get to see life in that way that we get to experience an inner dance. Like everything is just feedback, everything is part of a conversation. There are days even when I'm not holding space and I'm not being held, where one conversation would start, and then as I walk in the street, people are continuing the conversation. Magic that happens in that field. And now after like 7.5 years with other practices, as well as integrating inner dance in them and integrating them in my inner dance, I can say like now I have a much more awakened body. The amount of wisdom that I got to experience within this field of how alive this body is, everything that I've ever been questioning has the answer there. And my body took me to Earth, and Earth took me to the galaxy and the cosmos. So it's kind of like, as we were talking about the library, like I feel like I'm that file that has all the connection to every other file. And I think one of the things that makes inner dance very hard for me to speak, because you can never speak of one thing without actually mentioning everything. And when we study inner dance and when we talk about something like hyperlinking and how everything is linked, I believe like this is what changed in my mind. So nothing is a separate island anymore. And whenever I go into that space, I know I'm suffering. I know there's something in me that wants to create that box of safety for knowing, you know, because I realized maybe 4 or 5 years ago when we were talking in the community, like it's really hard for me to grasp inner dance or like this field or this frequency, because it keeps like deconstructing and reconstructing itself moment to moment. So the moment I'm like, I got you, you know, it's already shifted. And I've been in that for years now. And I think like this is what makes this space the most heart opening for me, because there's something that is always evolving, something that's always growing. And the intensity of that is, for me, is epic, because this is it for me, you know, like this is about going inward, seeing that and being in that space all the time, or most of the time. So through the years, it had never been like, for me, like a practice that I do or go out of. And I've tried multiple ways to do that. And I think like when I was in Europe this year, I realized like it just felt in my body that like this kind of chasing, or like this game that I've been playing with myself, where I'm in the field or out of the field, where I'm part of the community or not part of the community, is really just something that's even in the collective playing with me, you know, like where do I belong? What is belonging? And I just like, I woke up today very excited about that call, because that had been something that I've been asking the universe for years, because I know that I'm in part of other people's field all the time, and people are in my field. And if we can just kind of have that feedback, you know, like it might be like, I feel sometimes I'm living multiple lives within this community. So it's really beautiful place. And it's very hard for me to answer that question of what is inner dance, or how inner dance changed me or changed my mind. But I know, as well as it developed through the years, it created this innate trust in myself and in my body, and that whatever that's gonna happen is part of the process, and that makes things really easy. So whether when I went into like my weird aphasia, or when I was into those very deep places where I felt like completely left alone in the middle of earth, and feeling like the magnetic waves going through me, there was like this feeling that not just that I'm held by others, because at that moment it didn't feel anything of that, although I knew that there was that, but it was really about trusting that, okay, I'm in a process, and this is a process, and I can hold myself in that process because it will pass. And if I can, there's a support. There are people that I know that will be willingly and lovingly there for me and holding me through my processes, as sometimes they're really hard to explain or share with other people who had never been into that field. And this is like one of the things I think I've been groomed into and shape-shifting into, of like where is this energy, you know? And now that I see it in everything, other, not just in this space, I'm starting to learn that everything is being held by something even bigger. But like I still have that programming that I'm working on, but I feel like there's something very beautiful knowing that you're safe, and that you belong, and there are people in the community and space that will have your back, even if you're not there most of the time. It's just you're part of it, whether you're there or not. And I feel like there's something about being more, like for me, dedication is an interesting word in general. So I feel like with that chase of in and out, and like I've always held inner dance, like it's my constant delta since I started that, but there were a lot of other things that were happening in the background. And I feel like the stretch, it just feels like the room when you're building up, and then it explodes. And I'm actually like having all those remembrance of those moments since I came from Turkey. And I feel like it's just the perfect timing for me, honestly, to be held in that space and allow whatever conversation that wants to happen between us and the exchange, because I realize maybe I sometimes have an aspect of a personal, or like the understanding through the body or through the emotions, and then someone else will come, and then someone else will come, and then the picture is complete. And I love when that happens, when it becomes more of a communal space, when it becomes more of a global
communication and a global story more than just what's happening in me. So yeah, so thank you so much for that, giving me your time, and I'm really excited to start this journey. And one last thing, because I text Rosa and I realize it's personal. First, it warms my heart that we're going into those difficult places. And when I was listening, when you started the conversation with what you're trying to do in the prison place, like I could feel part of me, the part that had been present, whether by the community or by me not accepting it. And it just warmed something in my body, knowing that the field is going into those places, because there are still parts of me that are there. And how can I be holding that as we're, as a community, going into those places? And my background is medical as well. So I come from I'm a pharmacist, and when Pite speaks about going into the hospitals and understanding all, like, how the body works and all of that, there are part of me that feels like, oh my God, like, yes, this is the time to look into that. So, but Rosa, I agree with everyone. There's a lot that I was already happening in my system that Flora spoke to you about, because I've experienced with her the inner dance with music and painting, and it was really amazing. It's a very different one, but it's really still amazing, and it still works, and I still have my painting, and I still reflect on it whenever I'm in that space. So I think it would be really interesting how you take that. But I agree with everyone in the community that you are the best person to hold that space, because you already have the trust, and I could feel the love coming from you and how much you care. And I think, like, this is what creates the space, not just the knowledge, which is amazing to know, and not the techniques or anything. It's really that intention and willingness to be there and to be raw and to be human and to be yourself and to allow others to be that. And when you do that, and the way you project on them, the way you see them, is how they will see themselves in the space. So I think you're the perfect person for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Noha. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's Johanna. I would like to share just generally, and really resonate with the storm and the difficult places, and how the mä puhun täällä. Ei tuli. No niin. How that binds kind of inner dance to me, that and the question, like, because what happens when everything breaks down, and what happens and what are the kind of results after everything breaking down. When I got introduced to inner dance, it was like a language to me, and I related a lot with the process to the experience in life where everything breaks down and rebuilds as well, or breaks down to something that is incomprehensible, like a childbirth and a death. So when I gave birth to my first child, everything just changed and broke apart, and I felt the most intense shifts in everything that I can comprehend or experience. And in inner dance, since that everything that inner dance kind of carried on with the breaking apart, and kind of gave me an allowance to be in that position where everything is untangible and still allowed to happen. So in a way, I feel that many spiritual practices that I had been introduced before, or I had been practicing, was were related to life or related to everything that happens in a way that it's trying to somehow keep a control over or a boundary over what should be done. It would guide some sort of a journey to what should be done and what should be excluded out of the practice or excluded out of life to reach some sort of a state of being. And in the chaos of inner dance, when everything just becomes one and expands, and the anchor to this is like related to me in these occasions of life when there happens a birth or a death or extreme kind of a sensation of jail, when we say like we're talking about the prisoners, or that finding an equal space to what we hold like something that should not happen and something that should happen, like the freedom and the capture just happens at the same time, and they hold an equal value to themselves or to it. So it liberates to a space where there is no more value to the chaos or the order. And that gives me an anchor to an idea of how to build up the room inside, and how to build up, start building up the folders of the chaos, kind of, that when I am and have been afraid of becoming crazy with all that is just expanding in my space, coming into the point where that's fine, where actually there is nothing anymore that is more valuable to stay in the sanity, in a way that then I can find a peace in that kind of crazy vastness, and I can find freedom in the captured space where I might feel I'm contained. And that gives me a sense of integration to what inner dance can bring, that even with the unusual expansion of sensations and like traveling in many layers at the same time, in the mind space and the body space and in life in general, I am not afraid in this space. I can stay grounded in that, and I can kind of trust in that space where the soundtrack of life is kind of offering me the opportunity to choose which plane to be in, listen to, and go into, kind of like. So this is what inner dance is to me, that the sound that brings us to the journey is related to anything in life, in that way, holding the same multiplicity of opportunities to pick up where and what to hold at that moment. And also in that way, whatever it is that this great work and opportunities can be integrated in. I also relate a lot to what Noha shared, that it's related to. Voisiko mä saada puhua rauhassa? Kiitos. That it's really. Inka, mulla on lause kesken. Voisinko saada puhua? Okay. Yeah, my kids. So whatever whatever the work, it was like, whatever the work, whatever the room that this could apply to, is that there is always kind of the room inside of the room inside of a room where all of this happens, that when everything is allowed, it doesn't bring in a competition for something that is more valuable in that room. And that creates sort of freedom for the most important quality to emerge from the space. So yeah, this is what I'm sharing from my chaos. Thank you.
Everyone, thank you so much for this space. I'm so grateful for you. I have to jump in another call to observe inner dance here in a local community. Thank you so much. And for those who would like to help with the art materials and art mentor fees, please, I'm more than happy to accept or any type of help that you could provide to for the project to continue. We could do exchange of energies for NFT artworks coming from the students soon. So yes, any type of sponsorship from the community would be grateful. I'd be more than grateful for that. For now, I'll see you in the next call. Thank you so much. Bye, Lituli, Mama Floor, and everyone. Thank you. I really appreciate this. Take good care.
Thank you, Rosa.
I think we can just keep opening the space, so it doesn't matter where you're coming from. Well, whichever inner dance community at the moment, just whatever evokes and opens up for you, like what is today. Just feel free. That's what the community call is for.
Hello. Yeah, hi. I feel that in this call, for me, there is a lot that is spoken to, but I also feel that it's so much that I'm not sure that I will be able to share what I really want to share today, because I feel that it is a little bit too much to put into language, I guess. But in general, I think this whole journey has been very much transforming in multiple ways in my life in general, with my situation with being a mom in a city with children and trying to do the best I can to support my close environments and the way I approach my life is like became very joyful. I have experienced my life very hard, to be very hard and difficult. And now, it's just being a very interesting and loving journey with the people I am gathering around me. I have this strong feeling that I am becoming the person, the being that I really am. And I recognize a lot of my child being in myself right now. And that is something that I have really been almost like craving for over the last 15 years, that I could really sense this feeling of missing myself. And now have really reached that integration point that I feel like I am definitely connected with myself again, and with many more layers that I did not even know were there. So that is a very interesting investigation, and overwhelming, because things are evolving quite quick, and yeah, I do feel like for me it's still very difficult to expose myself in the world, because I I feel vulnerable in a way to expose myself, because I feel really strong within myself, but because the changes are so drastic, I feel very vulnerable to expose myself. So I do share the inner dance very regularly, but I do it in a very private space. Still, I'm holding it in a very private space where I only invite people who are maybe quite directly connected to people that are already entered the space. So it's not something that I can hold in a public way, because yeah, that leap would be too big for me at this time. And I do feel that I am the people that I work with now are really people I can resonate with deeply, because it are like people who are at this point in their life that they are making really big decisions for themselves, going through really big transformational changes. And I am really honored that I can. I feel that I have this supportive role in their transformation journey, and in this way, I have this. I have the feeling that I can give back to my. I can give something back, because I know that I needed. I was happy to I had some maybe 2 or 3 really important guides on my transformational path who were really there for me, and I do feel that it is my turn to be a really anchor to some others now. So I'm happy to let this circle go. Yeah, to have this ripple thing going on, and it's very inspiring, and yeah, but it's a lot. So that it's really a lot. I had this crazy opportunity to move 2 months ago. It was just someone who I also met in the inner dance who joined, and she has really offered me this super nice house to live in with my children, and it's such a great in Antwerp, and I can afford this because she just adjusted it to where I am at, and it's great, it's beautiful, it's the space I wanted to create. Yeah, it's such an upgrade for me to be able to yeah, just to be here and to explore all of this in this room. The vibe is super nice, and at the same time, I live now in a region in Antwerp where there is a lot of darkness. There's a lot of crime. There's a lot of ego. There's a lot of yeah, heaviness. Actually, it's a lot of polarities. But I feel really safe, super safe, actually, to be here, and it is not. I just feel really safe to be in this environment, and I have this feeling of this deep safety within myself, so I can just be here in a way without any kind of fear overwhelming. So yeah, thank you. I'll keep it here because it's a little bit too much. Thank you.
Who else would like to share?
Maybe I can talk now. At least the sun came up enough to be able to turn on the video and you can see me. So it's very nice to see all of you here, the familiar names and faces, and also the ones that I haven't met yet. I'm Saule from Lithuania. My inner dance journey started in the beginning of 2017, and I did an energy school with Pai in Thailand, and it was a game changer in a way in the whole process of getting to know myself and getting to know what is this experience of life on Earth all about. If can ever experienced or understood, but to the extent that we can, it's interesting to explore it. So as Johanna mentioned, like all the other modalities in the spiritual path, most of them have certain rules or containments, and I have tried many things before inner dance, from breathwork to Vipassana to Osho, whatever. And it's like everywhere there is something that like some guideline that you have to follow, or otherwise it doesn't work. And what inner dance brought was that, okay, there are no rules, and at the same time, like the ones that are like the laws of nature are the rules in this field. And it just was so different and so expansive, and it felt like an explosion from that moment that that I got in touch with it. So at first, the main change I noticed was experiencing a shift of I don't know how to even describe it. It's like first, before I thought that my knowledge and like my cognition happened in my brain, in my head, like it felt localized in my head. And when I first met Pai and started the inner dance process, I noticed how I started to feel the information inside my body and understand and perceive the body as the brain or a container for memory or space of cognition. And so it started with the body, and then of course with years of further process, it started extending beyond my body and included other people's bodies, objects, earth, and the whole universe. In a way, like also Noha mentioned about like the body teaching about earth about the universe. It just kind of expands from you as a point to the infinity. And yeah, like a year after I went to Maya, stayed there a few months, and had kind of a strong process and I don't know how to call it, like a strong entrance into the space and losing language in more comprehension of it. So very spacey year. And then by the end of 2018, coming back into time and like kind of believing that it exists again, because I really thought that there was no time before that. And the time, and although during these years I was still doing trainings but I kind of felt disconnected from inner dance in practical way. I mean, I always was still interested in exploring my own and other people's worlds and cognition, just was not in the place of, I think, learning and information. I kind of had to re-experience something old to kind of come back to learning the new, which is also like old and probably even older. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I'm kind of feeling like I'm re-entering the space again. And like I was a few days ago having a call with Mick and talking about meeting again for the first time. So this feels like my first time seeing people that I also know for a while already. It's just like, it seems like I have space now to meet people and to learn, and very excited about this process. Yeah, and I hope I can represent the Lithuanian community in this one. Thank you.
Hi, this is Isabel from Spain. And well, thank you very much for this gathering. And I'm already noticing the effects of this call. And now, what's happening to me with regards to language is that sometimes things that I was speaking inside of my head, I was in fact verbalizing externally, but I was not noticing it. I was not aware that I was speaking. I was thinking, I was thinking inside the head. And in this call, while Noah was talking, I felt that she was talking, that the voice was inside my head. I was with headphones. It's the first time that I attend one of these calls, these Zoom calls with headphones. And I was hearing her inside my head, not through the ears. And yeah, that was very interesting. Yeah, I cannot really say anymore because I know I'm like in a crossroads right now or something like that, and I feel I was calling in into the inner dance process to come to me to kind of because I felt I need this at this very moment in my life very much, very much. And when I feel I need it because I have not integrated it, in fact, that's the fact. So yeah, very happy to be here again. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Isabel, Saula, Kim. Let's hear from a few more and then we can start to close in a way that this is actually an opening.
Yeah, I think I do would like to speak. My name is Leslie. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. So, yeah, it feels like, in a way, I feel a bit vulnerable to be here presenting myself and tell my story, but also it's like part of the ride, and I feel like really also excited, no, to do so and to connect with all of you and also find a community where yeah, where I feel that there's actually the deepness and the connection with the real, yeah, real deep part of what we all are, no? And yeah, my journey so far has actually been about the process of healing. The last years, I've been really deep into the process with the energy, like really connecting with the energy and finding, yeah, how to put words on it. It's it has words on it. I'm here at this point of, I think I'm on a turning point right now of actually stepping a little bit more out and connecting from this really inner journey towards the part where actually I can start sharing and really find also a way to connect with all around it. And being here in this community with you is really nurturing for me, and it's really opening so many doors, and I'm realizing that it goes even deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, even if I thought like, well, I'm ready now, let's start sharing. And it's like, wow, and I realize, the purpose of it is actually investigating more, and it's asking for me to actually go deeper and connect deeper and see where it all will bring me. And I've been connecting to the energy through other methodologies than what's actually the inner dance, no? And I realized that I was needing that was not it, like intuitive and in a way, and I felt like I was looking for something that actually I wasn't able to find in my surroundings, and then I connected with inner dance. The people that presented me to this work, and I am realizing that this is actually taking me to the places that I was looking for. So I'm really happy to be here and go on the process and start also finding the words, no, and getting it, like, turn it around to the connection to all the surroundings, no? And that's a part that for me is being now quite a challenge, because in like the real, like the physical, it feels at the moment quite like a lonely process, and that's okay also. It's natural and it's fine, and I see that it's actually meant to be at this moment for me to be like this. And it's about trusting that everything will unfold and unroll the way it should. And I just want to thank you all for this beautiful space.
Thank you, Leslie. Okay, maybe one more, if anyone would like to share, and then we can do some integration.
Hi.
Hello, Annika.
Okay. Hi, I'm Anuka from Finland. Okay. It comes again. Mm. Yeah, those who know me, I tend to start crying when I start speaking, and it always happens unexpectedly again. But my therapist told me that it's a good thing. There is no reason to cry, but it just happens. But then it slows down. Yeah, it's also a little bit scary to speak on like in this kind of a platforms. I'm not used to being online, so that's why I'm speaking now. And yeah, I feel excited to be part of this, to be in this group. It's been a long process to be able to come, to be in this kind of a study place, because there has been some barriers inside. There still is, but at least now I'm here. Yeah, it is quite difficult still to say, to verbalize, like what inner dance is to me, or what are the things that maybe been changed during the process. But I can actually now feel them more clearly and see them. After being in Turkey in this immersion this year, just a month ago. But yeah, it's just a little bit of the background. So my inner dance journey started 2018 in Copenhagen, and it actually, in a way, it's funny. It started mostly because I had the injuries in my knees, so I was interested to do the inner dance where we're gonna lay down on the mat. And it was, since the first experience, it was really like wonderful. Like, whoa, what is this? And I was really feeling that there is something special in this. And there was a clear sign from my body that I need to continue this. It was something that was really authentic, familiar, safe. Yeah, there was, it's hard to put it into these words. Something really simple, and at the same time there were so many things inside of this. And yeah, I felt that maybe there is something that I've been, longing for, because inner dance brings together many things that I've been always interested, that I've always studied. And like in Turkey now, even more things were coming up that Pai was speaking. I was like, oh yeah, I've been into this for already like long time. So there is so many things inside of this. But yeah, so after starting this, I knew that I have to go further. So doing trainings in Finland, in Copenhagen, and then ending up to living in Palawan, studying and holding space. Yeah, it's been really, it's been a process of coming home. Yeah, coming back to who I really am, because the question, who am I, what I am, has always been there since I was a child. And this has helped me a lot with because I have a dissociation trauma from the childhood, so it's been really strong. I'm still working with that one. It's been to survive, that I needed to dissociate. And now I can see and feel how the inner dance process has actually helped me in coming more into connection. that then allows me to be who I am. It's been bringing me a lots of trust, some sort of like clarity, and to things are more clear. At the same time, there is a lot of chaos, but still there is something that I am actually feel that I am connecting. And it's wonderful, since I've been doing like 20 years of work with this. And I have a therapist who actually, she studied biosomatics also and transactional therapy, that she really understands this, that how this kind of a work can support us in so many ways. And yeah, just my mind is like jumping all over the place. But because she also has been running a clinic for addicts, and when I was sharing my experiences in Turkey, she was like, wow, this all happens, without taking anything. And how wonderful is this, that we have this kind of a tool, a method that can that we can experience these things, and then this can help us to transform. Because for me, it's been really about like transformation, and also about the healing, and going to the when I was listening to Rosa, and I also use art, colors, painting, different kind, also movement, so I can really feel how this can support, if there is a trust. And I really believe that she's the one to hold the space, because she's already created the trust and the bond, and how to use, like Flor said, using the music first in the class, and it's already one way to go towards the process. Yeah, it feels I'm really curious about this. Yeah, and what is in inner dance, it really always gets me excited. There is so many things, and I'm grateful for this space, since being in Finland here alone, which I'm not so excited about, being here in this cold, dark space, to share this space, to have this excitement and curiosity, it sort of supports me also in my daily life. Yeah, what was I supposed wanting to say? Yeah, I really believe that inner dance is like I don't know if the game changer or something is that, but there is so much in it, and I'm still on this journey, but I can see the benefits in me, and then also see how it can support the others. This is like a lifelong study, I believe. Yeah, maybe a little bit unclear, but I'm here, like sharing at least something. So excited to join. Thank you.
Kiitos. Thank you. Okay, so I think I'd like to weave and just contain so much of these beautiful sharings, and there's more. There's so many people out there who are contributing. There's a lot at work here, and there's something about what Isabel shared that was very, very, very deep and very profound and very exact to where we are at now. Everything everyone shared is super valuable, what Isabel was speaking helps to hold a lot of these from a meta cognition. Like we're becoming aware of our consciousness. How does the mind, the body, the spirit, and energy work? And what Isabel was pointing out is she's becoming aware of how language is working. Language could be speech, speaking and listening to the sounds that we make. Language could be writing. Language could be electronic. Language could also be musical. Language could be art. I'm really glad that a lot of this is starting to come together. I think containing this project Rosa is working on, there's something about the sound and image that starts to come together, bridged by the movement, that is really important. There's something about bridging the gap for her to realize they're not separate things. Like she would have thought that it's an inner dance process, but it's actually bringing sound alongside the image that would heal the body, the brain, the mind that's been experiencing the disconnect. So this isn't just a prison problem. Maybe the prison serves as a metaphor. So what we're liberating is actually everything else. Everything that's been imprisoned is undergoing a liberation. So the question is like, what is that? Like, what is being freed up? What is being given laya, kalayaan? Like that's that's freedom in our language. Like even with the winds happening now, picking up again, it's like something's being liberated. I want to talk about technology, not in a literal sense. So let's not hurry into how we normally understand technology, but technology is vibrating always to the consciousness that's using it. Spirituality is a technology, so there is no separation. Alien technology is just a way of providing a structure for information, for meaning, for how sound becomes formed, for how electricity and magnetism becomes an experiential static thing. That it's almost like we're able to slow down and to hold in sustained way what otherwise would just be like cosmic, or would just be wind, what would just be not solid, something that doesn't stay the same, that tomorrow it wouldn't be that anymore. We're interested in change. We're interested in the winds of change taking over the things that need to change, but we're also interested in slowing down and stabilizing. So, okay, it's my pen. What I've seen and felt throughout, so much of the journey in observation, even of the trance states people go into, this could be the mind or the body, the body mind. What the mind and the body does is, and we do hear the word a lot, it naturally integrates the infinite amount that we're constantly sensing into like a one space, and that's something we can call the now, here, or it could even be the I. It comes into a self, and something inner dance is helping to conduct is something is emerging from another direction that's also holding like a lot. It's holding more as well, from an opposite directionality. There's this involution process, and then there's an evolution process. Something's going down always, like we're reducing, we're making dense that which is coming from the clouds, from the sky, and something rises up from inside. So like maybe one way we could look at this, if we were to round it off, is there's that middle space, where these two directionalities are meeting. So let's say it could be from top to bottom, where a lot of the information, sometimes my pen doesn't go beyond the borders. This could be, if this could be the personal, for example, there could be a lot of collective information that also rises up after we conduct the integrations that are possible. Like what does the mind put together, and then as that integrates, we start to get a sense of what's beyond the mind, and sometimes that can rise from the body or from the earth, or just from the experience of the external. So there's always this possible meeting point between, let's say, the subjective, the things that we know, the things that we see and hear and sense, and then there's this space that's objective, that's coming from the collective consciousness. It's not just like what you know. There's always this kind of meeting point between what we see and what you can't see, what we know and what we don't know. There's always like some kind of meeting point emerging, always like in that middle space. So I've been interested in like language. Sorry, sometimes when I press my pen, the language seems to be doing this. Language has a way of putting together what is being heard and what is being said. Language has a way of decomposing what is incoming, and then when you learn to put it out there, either through art, through expression, through action, you make something new that's coming from something old. So something happening in language, which is also communication. Language could also be about meaning. There's a lot of like subjectivity about to come up in the world. Like I am, I feel, I think, because a lot of that has been bottled up from here and also here. And so when you think about media, so for example, like social media that's using modalities of sound and image, identity is important. You know, it's really important that we get to know who we are. Like, what exactly are you embodying? We do know what can happen to ego when we're coming from the hidden cognitive dissonant fear of dying, the things that motivate us, the things that demand for outcome, the things that are coming from control, the elements that might not exactly see beyond the cognitive biases that, you know, like we like to think and see and say what gives pleasure and what would give reward and what would give benefit, that wouldn't allow us to experience what we're resisting, what is hard to surrender to. So the objective field is always waiting whenever the subjective field can open up. And like in a way, we become like children, and then we come into wonder and awe. To wonder at something is to 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 understand that there's something that I don't understand about something I thought I knew about. That's how a child would approach information. It's like, I'm curious, I'm open. And when we don't have wonder, what happens is we're not that interested, we're not open. It's like, no, I already know that. I don't need to know more about that because I already know about it. The inner dance brain state, when we look at the models of semantic networks and low latent inhibition, when we open up that part of the body, the brain and the mind, we suddenly realize that the more we don't understand about something, the more we actually do know about it, because we're creating the potential for knowing from a space of not knowing. And that is a brain state. That's an energetic process. This is one of the definitions of what we're doing. This is one of the things that we're doing. So one of the importances of this drawing, this image that I bring forth, it's to do with language, it's to do with technology, it's to do with the mind. Some years ago, I channeled this one term, which is what we're calling this channel for now. And it's Stoudious Mundos, and I'm glad that some people mentioned Turkey, because Turkey was in fact a place where studios was. It was a monastery. There was a monastery in Studios that really struck me deeply as the turning point, a symbolic turning point in the movement in the global consciousness that was between orality, that's not a question mark, it's an ear, and literacy. When we were moving from the spoken word, the usage of sound, and then coming into reading and writing the image. In inner dance, we're moving from the image and we're going back to sound, that which holds more layers, that which holds more vibration. But we will not let go of the image. There will be a dance between both. So what is to happen now? And I really am interested in this. I don't know what even I have to do with it, but language technology is going to change. It can evolve, it can involve, but what I feel is we need new types of media. We need new types of communication, new types of listening, because from a phenomenological perspective, everything someone has to say is extremely important, it's extremely valuable. But the current modalities of communication, of listening, even though social media seems to do this, subjectivity and objectivity are going to have to come together. Because what's happening in media right now is we're accumulating information. We're just adding, we're adding more and more and more. And then the question is, okay, now that we have all this information, how do we actually integrate that? Who's going to process that? Do we just keep adding more identifications to what I think or what I feel? There's an excitement there because that's been bottled up. And so it is important to release a lot of that. But where that starts to really integrate is like, what do we know, having have been here on the planet for a really, really long time? So how that starts to speak to inner dance as a technology or with technology is this middle space means something. This middle space is sometimes like a dream space. It's not just a dream space, it's the library. Language emerges if it's not just about, if it's not just language, speech, language as a library of all meanings rests in that space. It somehow, this is that space. The cosmic library is in that space. And so there are interesting questions to bring up when we start designing a new media, and innerintensive and inner dance itself, and then Stoudious Mundos. These are all experimentations to help to propose, to put forward like what the new mediums could be, new mediums that can assist in the developmental stages of the mind. It can bring about genius. It can bring about growth of the universe through us. Like, how do we bring the necessary information to those who need it at that particular time where it's resonating? So when you go into the process, when you go into the journey, and a lot of these things are happening that we describe as like a lot. One interesting thing that we have always experienced since the beginning is there's connections there. It's like it's not just your dream that is that space. It's where all of the dreams come together. So in a way, that could be really womb-like, but on the opposite view, that could be the space after death. So if we come to that space, not necessarily before we're born or after we die, if we're able to visit that space right now, that is the space where pure creation is happening. That's the space from where we are creating the universe. So if communication or language or thought process itself and technology is really just an extension, it's always just been an extending of consciousness externally, what is internal. And there are philosophical mappings that are going to be so interesting to go into, that talks about that. This is something we will need, something that allows the subject to go into an infinite journey, and for that to meet its counterparts. That could be people. Normally, it's not actually about people. So even as we're expanding our capacity to hold more people, that's just really synonymous with the fact that we're raising the small capacities our brains used to have. So let's say we're operating at 3 or 8%. Now we're operating at 12. And then we're going to shift into 20%. We will need new ways at the time that we shift into other dimensionalities of space-time. So we're going to be dreaming with each other. And when you do listen to certain sounds that are shared, you are somehow dreaming of each other. A lot of the things that you see are connected to what others are seeing, because you're never creating just the one universe. That's the solipsism that leads to spiritual ego. What could help us heal from that is a collective dreaming process. So there have been really interesting discussions with people in information technology, in media, how people can visit those dream spaces by sharing the same sound journeys, but then how do you interconnect with those who are journeying into those same spaces with you? And some of those people might be in Shanghai, or in Johannesburg, or in Melbourne, right? I feel there's something to that. So the chakra system could be like a really good guide to sensing, okay, what part are the playlists going to be, and what part is there that can help me connect to a lot of people around the world who might be, where questions might be resonant with each other. What part of the map would there be that the objective information could be found, the study spaces. So this long-term group, what it will propose to do is to, it can't be static. It needs to be fluid. Maya is really just helping to host the libraryification right now. It could spread and decenter later on. But what it would do is, like listening to Rosa today, it's like, okay, wow, that's relevant. It's amazing. And even as she's speaking, a lot of people start to network. Okay, I know people who've done that. What's amazing about what Rosa's doing, there will be continuity there. It's not a one-shot deal. She's building like a long-term program so that it doesn't need to end. It doesn't need to be, it's going to be there for a while for to show us what that can really potentially do. But that's really just one conversation. You can't say there's 10 important conversations we need to have when you look at this bringing importance to everyone. That also means bringing importance to what is inside everyone, and that's basically everything. So how would there be a spiritual wikifications of everything? When we speak these words that we do, we honor them because they are so old. And when you start to vibrate, everything that you say starts to embody the resonance of all of that. And even as that is happening, something's happening to your brain that can super computerize these later on, because you're building up to that dimensionality that's able to live through all of it. So how to then be able to spread out so that, okay, I'm not interested in that conversation. I'm interested in that conversation. I want to be in that room, maybe next month, maybe next year. Right now, I'm a single mother. I'm going through these issues, and I know that there are spiritual elements there. I need to invest in that right now. That is the kind of space Stoudious Mundos will be holding. So that, why studios? It has something to do with the etymology of the word study, which is which is studio. To study is to take in, to listen, to feel into, to receive, and then the studio. I think I need a larger tablet. The studio is where you create, right? This is where you make things up. This is where you take things in. To go beyond just what I think and what I feel necessitates that we open up the personal to the global intelligence that rests everywhere. And when that happens, I feel we can do that energetically. We could do that. Sometimes energetic also means unconsciously, like subconsciously. People like to use the word intuitively. But if you are developing and you are coming into this amazing super brain that begins from baby brains, you will serve, you will offer, you will contribute hugely. And the level of creativity that you bring forth from such a level of receiving will be immense. But as I say, the medium must hold the messages that will flow through. So in a way, the study, we're all going back to a school, and the school is vast. The classroom is a universe. The teacher is a universe. The subject matter is the universe. The student is the universe, and it's interested in itself. It's going into that meta universe cognition where the universe is coming to know itself through you. So new applications like apps, websites, meeting rooms. What would happen if the energy was intelligent? If it's not something that we're doing, this is not something that we're doing, the energy itself knows, then systemic reflexivity is about how as soon as the system receives its inputs, it's already adapting like an AI, not artificial, but an authentic intelligence, an AI within the body, an AI within the it's not just air. There's this global brain that is fast undergoing a shift. So there is something to this inner dance process. It's the evolution of language itself. Language is evolving. Language is a structure. Language is a system. Language is a medium. Language is a dimensionality. And language is transforming. So you will find yourself speaking differently, listening to the space differently. And the big difference is it's not you speaking anymore. When you really get there to that more objective space, it's not coming just from some of the motivations and some of the trauma, some of the resistances and fears. It's not you speaking. And when I listen to a lot of these folks like Johanna, like Noah, like everyone else, you can almost hear an inner dance type of language. It's always been there since the beginning. People don't speak the same way when they start to come into that space where it's not even the word so much anymore. They're coming from a dimension, and you can see just how much is being retrieved from the infinite amount of experiences that were accessible in each day, or each body that you hold in that energy field. It's infinite. It would take you forever to process even just one body, and you just go on because you're not the one processing. It's processing itself because the energy is alive. It's intelligent. So this needs work. Everything's happening for a reason. Everything is beautiful. And so if you could put all of these together, like it would be the gifts, let's say WhatsApp brings, or Facebook and Instagram and Wikipedia, YouTube, TED Talks, from the most subjective, from the ones that celebrate the identity process, the thing that has to do with like, listen to me, I haven't been heard, see me, hear me. And then the other parts, which is what do humans know, because we've spent a tremendous amount of time looking at these. I don't think we need to think about new things. I think everything that could possibly have been thought about in many ways, it's out there. It's just more like now is the time not to keep adding, but to put things together. Like all of the thoughts that have ever been thought are puzzle pieces coming into some kind of big picture. And for some, it's like a big sound. So that more or less puts like another way of seeing what I was describing earlier on, where there's chaos and organization like happening in your whole like space. There's really just so much more when you make the decision to really work with this as a team, not with me, not with other human beings per se, but with this energy, this vibration that's coming to humanity now. Maybe as an awareness, maybe it's always been there, we just haven't been aware of it. And as we acclimatize and resonate with it, it just solidifies. The hologram becomes like physical, it becomes experiential. it 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 will really bring a lot to order. You know, it will really hold a stabilizing force, even at a time of huge discomfort. And you know, because especially what you're holding is designed to help with the transition. There's so much order, there's so much stability to come. And a lot of people wouldn't agree. They would think, oh, it's messed up and all of this. But if you know how to read, you know how to read the space. All of these are supposed to be happening. It's going to push us to integrate. Then I think you're really just looking for a starting point. Once you've gathered enough of a sense, okay, this is good, this is valuable, this is important. Let's start now. So there's a different feeling when we go into project-based learning. So when we heard Rosa, there's something really alive and vibrant when we see like there's application, there's pragmatism. So in this channel, we will be coming a lot from there. A lot of the things that will be shared will be applicable for those who are holding this energy. If you are in that space, then this will serve you, because the things that will be shared, from music to touch to language to the philosophies, the long-term study, you need to make it practical. You need to challenge yourself in a way. You need to ground, so that sometimes the best way to learn is by doing project-based learning, PBL. Come up with something interesting. Some people are working with dementia. Some people are working with schools. Some people are working with mothers. Some people are working with companies. Find your tribe, find your soul group, find your passion, and then don't just keep hopping. Create certain important projects that you know are like relevant or ripe, like exactly there. They need that. And then there's an opening, and then you know how to contextualize things slowly. Then you won't somehow feel so overwhelmed when you're hopping from place to place, because one other word, I was chatting with Fanny about this. I heard her speak to these two words. I think this is what Stoudious Mundos need to think about: containment and continuity. Containment, like holding, and continuity would be sustainability, because when there's continuity, there's growth. And then there's just loops happening. It's not so much growth, that's a regression, which is beautiful. It's becoming like a child. But to bring about evolution, transformation, and stabilization, there's structure needing to happen, sort of like an architecture or an interior design. So you know, they go together. The more something is held, the more there's growth. The more there's containment, the more there's continuity. Both your continuity, you will not die, you will live, you will keep going through many lives. And once you settle with that and you're not afraid to die anymore, the global continuity, it's like the legacy of the mother of the planet. You're going to be working with that, and she's going to be working with you. So this is really big. The image that I'm painting on Stoudious Mundos, from orality to literacy, and now secondary orality, the age of the internet, so much continuity is happening. It's actually very hard to hold the container now. So this is what we will learn to do. Each important thing needs to be contained. So always know where you're coming from, always know the spaces you're entering into, so that the aspect of that part of you, that folder in your mind, can hold a healthier boundary, so that you don't splash into other things that might seem related, it's part of the training, so that when you go into space, when you come back into time, you would empathize with the spaces that you're going to be bringing this to, a lot of which are going to be very dense, very restricted. That's more or less like the other part of inner dance, which is the outer, like, stillness part. So thank you for helping to open something. I didn't even know what today would be. It's a great Sunday. We will keep weaving all the communities together. It's not easy to understand how this is just going to keep scaling because of the amount of messages that we're getting from people who say, I want to join, but we can't lose quality. So how can we grow so that when we hear people speaking from Stoudious Mundos, it's like, okay, so a lot of the people in intensive, this will be them in the following months and years. And then we're all holding like the space together, really. Then this can scale to 8 billion, maybe by then 9-10 billion people. So thank you. If you could unmute, I think we're exactly 10 minutes beyond our 3-hour mark.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.